The world isn't ruled by those who shout the loudest. It belongs to those who understand the power of silence. In a time where everyone is desperate to be seen, to be heard, to prove themselves, you operate differently. You don't give them the satisfaction of access. Your restraint isn't hesitation, it's precision. Every moment you withhold, every word left unsaid, every move unseen, it all builds a presence so undeniable, so magnetic, that they can't help but watch. They will talk, they will speculate, they will burn themselves out trying to decode what you never intended to share. Let them. Their obsession is proof of your power. They want noise, they crave validation, they seek control. But you give them nothing, and that nothing is what drives them insane. This isn't about arrogance, it's about mastery. When you move, it is deliberate. When you speak, it is final. When you decide to act, the game is already over. The unworthy will collapse under the weight of their own desperation, while you stand untouched, unbothered, unstoppable. You don't follow trends. You don't chase approval. You don't explain. You make them lean in. You make them question. You make them wait. And by the time they understand the force they're dealing with, it will already be too late. You are not just seen. You are felt. You don't seek power. You are power. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them try to keep up. They never stood a chance. Some chase power with loud declarations, believing control lies in their ability to be seen and heard. But real dominance isn't claimed through spectacle. It is secured in the spaces where others grasp for certainty. There is no reaction, no predictable counterstrike, only absence sharpened into a force of its own. And when the weight of inaction settles, the balance shifts. The moment was never about waiting. It was about making them step forward first, unaware they were already losing. If the silence you wield forces others to break formation, to expose their vulnerabilities before you lift a finger, leave your mark. I dictate the field. While they flail, searching for something to grasp, you are already positioned where they never thought to look. Their dependence on routine betrays them. Their attempts to map your movement turn to dust, and their expectations collapse beneath the quiet precision you command. What they call emptiness is an unseen gravity, a calculated vacuum in which their own uncertainty festers. They throw out lures, hoping to pull you into the fray, but their nets close around nothing, only their own fear reflected back at them. Every assumption they made becomes their own undoing. Every trap they set coils back with consequences they never foresaw. A battle cannot be fought against a presence that evades definition, and by the time they realize this, the outcome has long been sealed. True withdrawal is not escape. It is an offensive move concealed in stillness. Those who mistake silence for weakness underestimate its depth, while others reveal their hands in desperation, announcing their every intention. You strip them of their footing. They seek conflict, expecting resistance to meet them head-on. But there is no battlefield left to conquer, only a shifting expanse where their own illusions unravel. The skilled do not charge into a losing game. They move in the unseen, dissolving from the grasp of those who seek to control them. Disruption is not always loud. Sometimes it is the absence of expected resistance that dismantles an opponent completely. Control is never surrendered. It is recalibrated, redirected, made inaccessible to those who have not earned its presence. The wise do not scatter their energy like currency into greedy hands. Instead, they let scarcity reveal the truth. Those who once fed on access will flail when it is revoked. The entitled will call it rejection, but it is only reflection. The desperate will push, plead, attempt to manipulate, But their noise is nothing against the stillness of someone who refuses to engage. The void they fear was never yours to fill, and the weight they struggle under was never yours to carry. Let them call it selfishness. Let them call it arrogance. The only real debt is the one they owe to themselves for, depending on what was never promised. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. A tree with shallow roots cannot withstand the storm. It may stand tall for a season, appearing unshaken, but when the winds shift, when the ground beneath it begins to crack, it falls, unable to hold itself up. That's the nature of those who built their confidence on borrowed strength. They leaned on your presence as if it were their foundation, using your light to navigate, your power to feel stable. But the moment you step back, the moment you remove what they once took for granted, the earth beneath them crumbles. Now, they are lost. They reach, they grasp, they strain to locate the source of their former security, but all they find is silence. Not emptiness, power. Silence that stretches out like an ocean too deep to comprehend, a force too vast to control. They assumed your absence would make you weaker, but instead, it has revealed the truth. You were never the one in need. They were. Stillness is what terrifies them most. Noise is comfort. Motion is predictability. They expect resistance because resistance is something they can fight against, something they can try to manipulate. But when you do not engage, when you do not respond, when you offer nothing for them to hold on to, the illusion of their control shatters. Every unanswered call, every unreturned glance, every door that remains closed tightens around them, like a grip they cannot break free from. They believed they had the power to dictate the terms, to set the stage, to determine when and how the story would unfold. But the moment they realized that the rules were never theirs to begin with, their authority dissolves. They called you predictable, manageable, something to be understood and contained. But what they failed to realize is that you were never operating within their framework. You were always beyond their comprehension, moving outside of their reach. Like a tide receding from the shore, you did not disappear, you simply moved beyond where they could follow. They wanted to measure you, to track your every step, to anticipate your next move, but you left them staring into a void they could not navigate. And as they spiral, trying to grasp what is slipping further and further from their hands, the weight of their own insignificance crashes down upon them. They will search for signs. They will wait for proof. They will convince themselves that you must return, that things must go back to how they were before. But the truth is, they were never meant to keep up with you. They were never meant to understand. The chosen ones do not linger in places where they have outgrown the lesson. They do not explain when the time for explanation has passed. And they do not waste breath on those who were never meant to walk beside them in the first place. Let them wonder. Let them question. Let them sit in the silence, hoping for an answer that will never come. Their world was never built on their own strength. It was built around you. And now, without you, the cracks are spreading, the walls are caving in, and the very foundation they stood on is crumbling beneath their feet. You do not need to act. You do not need to respond. You do not need to do anything at all. The silence is the revelation. The absence is the storm. And by the time they understand what has happened, it will already be too late. When withdrawal is executed with intent, it does not signal retreat. It signals inevitability. Some believe they have time, that they will see the shift coming, but by the time they grasp the truth, it is already written in stone. They are not unsettled by your absence alone. They are haunted by the unknown. Their unease is not in losing sight of you, but in the understanding that they never had control to begin with. They can attempt to retrace steps that were never left behind, to follow trails that lead only into empty echoes, but they will find nothing. Presence is not a demand. It is an unspoken command. The atmosphere shifts, energy recalibrates, and space is reshaped in ways they cannot articulate, yet cannot deny. They do not observe from a place of curiosity. They watch because something in them is disturbed, something within them disrupted. And those who seek to contain what they do not understand will always attempt to break it. Their tactics are predictable: manipulation, opposition, obstruction. But what they fail to realize is that the storm does not bend to the will of the fearful. The more they press, the more they reveal their own weakness. The moment they understand that their grip was an illusion, they collapse beneath the weight of their own desperation. There is no need to justify, to defend, to adjust the tempo of movement, to accommodate those who cannot keep pace. Some fight battles in the open, declaring their intentions, exhausting themselves in futile resistance. Others rise without noise, indifferent to the expectations of the unworthy. Their frustration does not stem from misunderstanding. It comes from recognition. They see the distance between themselves and the unattainable, and it burns. There is no need for explanation. Existence alone is enough. The attempts to disassemble what cannot be touched, to distort what refuses to be confined, are destined for failure. The patterns they once relied upon crumble. Their trusted methods prove useless, and the foundation they built their confidence upon fractures beneath them. They were prepared for resistance, but they were never prepared for the void. No path to follow, no signal to decipher, no vulnerability to exploit. They cast lines into the abyss, expecting something to surface, but all they meet is the silence of inevitability. And when nothing answers, their carefully constructed illusion shatters under the weight of the truth. They were never in control. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. A lion does not announce itself before it strikes. It moves through the tall grass unseen, its presence felt but never confirmed. And that is what shakes them to their core. It's not that you're gone, it's that they know you're still there, just beyond their grasp, watching, waiting. They tell themselves they are in control, that they hold the power, that they dictate how this ends. But deep down, a fear festers. The kind of fear that only comes when one realizes the illusion was never real. They reach, they bait, they prod at the edges of the silence, hoping to get a reaction, hoping to regain the footing they lost the moment you stepped away. But you do not take the bait. You do not move when they expect you to. You do not break formation just to reassure them that they still matter. And so, the panic sets in. The silence doesn't just unnerve them, it dismantles them. They were prepared for resistance, expecting the familiar patterns of conflict where they could predict your every move. But you do not fight on their terms. You do not play their game. Instead, you have rewritten the battlefield entirely. What was once solid ground beneath them has turned into shifting sand. The path they thought they could follow has vanished. Their certainty is now their downfall. They tell themselves they are still in control, but the longer they wait, the more they feel it slipping away. The silence stretches, thick and unyielding, wrapping around them like a storm cloud that refuses to break. They look for proof, for a sign, for some confirmation that they still have relevance, but there is none. And in that void, paranoia takes root. They turn on each other, They chase ghosts, they build theories to explain the unexplainable, but the truth is simpler than they'd like to admit. They were never the ones running the show. A house built on shifting sand cannot stand. They built their confidence on the illusion that they could contain you, track you, control the outcome. But now, they stumble in the dark, their own insecurities caving in on them. You do not need to speak. You do not need to act. You do not need to justify your position. The weight of your absence alone is enough to collapse everything they thought they understood. You were never meant to be predictable. You were never meant to be understood by those who refuse to rise to your level. And that is why they spiral. That is why they can't stop thinking about you. That is why, despite all their attempts to move forward, they find themselves looking back, searching for something that no longer exists. The game was never about retreat. It was about never leaving a trail to follow in the first place. Let them panic. Let them exhaust themselves trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. You do not need to move, because every step they take only leads them deeper into their own undoing. And when they finally realize they were chasing shadows, when they finally see that the power they thought they had was nothing more than an illusion, they will understand. But by then, it will be far too late. A presence does not require validation. It commands without seeking permission. Some demand that power be contained, that confidence be muted to make space for the fragile. But authority does not bow. It does not shrink to accommodate the small-minded. When something stands outside the framework they are accustomed to, they seek to diminish it, label it, mold it into something less threatening. But their discomfort is not your burden to carry. They cannot grasp the weight of what they cannot define, so they call it arrogance, madness, delusion. Yet their words hold no power. They are merely echoes of their own limitations. They watch, waiting for cracks, hoping for a moment of hesitation. But hesitation never comes. They wanted submission, but they are met with unwavering certainty. Their tools of manipulation break against the edges of something unshakable. They question, they cast doubt, they whisper in circles, but none of it matters. Power does not require recognition to exist. Whether they accept it or not is irrelevant. It does not change the fact that it is real. Those who cannot understand it will fear it, and those who fear it will always try to destroy it. But destruction is impossible when the foundation cannot be touched. Let them stare. Let them crumble beneath their own disbelief. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, now is the time to let that love shine. By clicking the super thank you button and giving $20 or more, you're not just supporting this platform. You're planting seeds of faith that will touch countless lives. Your generosity is a reflection of God's abundance, a gift that echoes beyond what you can see. Step into your purpose. Be a vessel of His grace. Give with faith and watch His kingdom flourish through you. You were made for more. They listen for signs, straining to catch even the faintest movement, but the void they peer into only deepens. They tell themselves it does not matter, that you are irrelevant, that they have already moved on. But the absence gnaws at them. It becomes a presence in itself, an entity they cannot ignore. They expected opposition. They prepared for resistance. But what they were met with was something far worse: uncertainty. The silence does not sit idly. It presses, it distorts, it consumes. They once believed they could force a reaction, could push hard enough to drag you into their chaos, but every effort collapses into nothing. The weight of the unknown crushes their confidence, fracturing the stability they once took for granted. They dig for answers, search for proof, that they still hold some influence. But every empty moment chips away at the lie they built for themselves. In the absence of resistance, they unravel. The longer they chase shadows, the more they dismantle their own reality. And while they fall deeper into their own undoing, you remain beyond reach, untouched, unmoved, and impossible to follow. Some believe power must be loud, that strength is something announced. But real mastery requires no declaration. It is woven into the silence, into the space between actions, where uncertainty crushes those who seek control. The absence is a weight they cannot lift, a question with no answer. They reach for explanations, digging through possibilities, but you have already moved beyond their comprehension. They expected access, expected to witness the journey, to study and analyze your growth. Instead, they are left in the dark, fumbling for a pattern that does not exist. Their discomfort is not from losing sight of you, but from knowing you are still there, unreachable, expanding beyond their reach, slipping through the cracks of their understanding. They cast theories, hoping to land on truth, but the unknown suffocates them more than any confrontation ever could. Each moment spent trying to decipher your movements tightens around them like an unseen force while you advance in silence. Let them chase illusions. Let them waste time deciphering shadows. You are not lost. You are simply beyond their field of vision. And by the time they realize this, they will already be too far behind to matter. You are here for a reason. If you feel the call, it's time to answer it. By clicking the Join button, you unlock exclusive content, deep insights, and a powerful community ready to walk this journey with you. This isn't just a membership. It's an awakening, a chance to step fully into your divine purpose and claim the path meant for you. Don't wait. Step forward. Join the chosen. They once drew from you without thought, feeding off your presence as if it was something to be taken without question. Their sense of worth was measured by their proximity, their relevance dependent on the connection they assumed would never be severed. But the moment you step back, the moment you remove what they never appreciated, the balance shifts. The well runs dry, the echoes fade, and they are left staring into the emptiness where something once stood. They are not mourning your absence. They are mourning their own insignificance now laid bare. You were the anchor they mistook for a given, the source they drained without hesitation. And now, with nothing left to cling to, they unravel. They cycle through disbelief, through blame, through desperate attempts to re-establish the dynamic. But the door is closed. What they truly fear is not losing you, but being forced to face themselves without the distraction of your presence. They reach, they stir, they try to create noise in the void you left behind. But nothing answers, and in that stillness, reality sinks in. You owe nothing. Their hunger is not your responsibility. Their emptiness is theirs to carry. The silence is not a punishment. It is the truth they spent so long avoiding. Let them sit with it. Let them understand. They are not drawn to you by chance. If they had a sense of purpose, they wouldn't be so consumed with watching yours unfold. Wherever you exist, the space around you adjusts. People take notice, not because you seek attention, but because something in your energy disturbs the rhythm of their world. You don't ask to be seen, yet they can't look away. Some are captivated, feeling an unspoken pull toward you. Others are unsettled, resisting what they cannot define. Regardless of their reaction, one truth remains: they cannot ignore you. What you carry operates on a wavelength beyond their comprehension, vibrating at a depth they are unprepared to withstand. Their fixation is inevitable. They analyze, dissect, attempt to assign labels, but the mystery remains beyond their grasp. It is not mere confidence that unsettles them. It is something unshakable, something embedded in your very existence. You are a mirror they never intended to look into, a reflection that exposes what they prefer to keep hidden. And that is why they watch, not with simple curiosity, but with a compulsion they don't understand. The world bends slightly in your presence, forcing them to acknowledge what they would rather ignore. You have nothing to prove, nothing to declare. They are already listening, already reacting, already orbiting your silence. Let them linger in their confusion. Their assumptions hold no weight. Your presence alone is the answer they will never decipher. Stillness is not inaction. It is the tightening of a force unseen. While they scramble for evidence of movement, desperate for proof of their own relevance, you are gathering momentum where they cannot reach. Power is never wasted on spectacle. Every moment in silence is a recalibration, every pause a deliberate act of refinement. They misinterpret absence as retreat, but absence is an illusion, a construct they rely on to feel in control. The truth unsettles them. What they cannot see is not gone. It is simply preparing. They expected visibility, a predictable sequence they could track, but instead, they are left with a void they cannot penetrate. The air hums with anticipation, a tension thick enough to be felt yet impossible to name. They do not realize the shift has already begun. When the moment arrives, it will not unfold in increments. It will hit with absolute finality. They mistook patience for passivity, mistook quiet for hesitation, but silence was never an absence of power. It was the undercurrent, pulling everything into alignment. And when the inevitable unfolds, when the force that was building finally breaks through, there will be no time to prepare, no way to undo what has already been set in motion. They had their chance to see it coming, but they looked in all the wrong places. While they analyzed, while they whispered, while they convinced themselves you had faded, you built something beyond their comprehension. The moment it shifts, the ground will buckle beneath them. You never disappeared. You recalibrated. Let them gossip. Let them project. Let them hold on to the illusion that they still hold relevance. By the time recognition dawns, the outcome will already be decided. You were never designed to conform. Your presence alters the current. Your silence dismantles illusions, and your power forces the unprepared to confront the reality they've been avoiding. Every ploy to control, suppress, or undermine has crumbled because you do not function within the confines of their reality. You do not justify, you do not bend, and you do not wait for permission. Those who walk with intent shift landscapes without trying and rewrite narratives without needing an audience. Your very existence is a force they cannot harness. Let them theorize. Let them exhaust themselves chasing answers. Let them run in circles, trying to decipher a code never meant for them. They are not owed access. Your strength is not entertainment, not validation, not theirs to consume. You operate outside their understanding, and that is why their attention never wavers. They cannot pull away. They cannot silence the unease. They cannot shake the inevitable. And when the time comes, when the shift is undeniable, explanations will be unnecessary. They will feel it. Control is an illusion, but silence, it is the unseen hand that guides the outcome. In a world drowning in empty declarations, few understand the weight of restraint. Your untold story is not a secret. It is an impact waiting to be unleashed. Picture a space where the absence of words carries more power than any desperate proclamation. Your ability to withhold is not hesitation, it is disruption by design. While others overshare in pursuit of validation, you construct a presence so deliberate, so precise, that it hums with untapped force. The barriers you establish do not isolate, they intrigue. They shift the perception of those who assumed access was a right instead of a privilege. Every unspoken truth becomes a test, a silent command that forces onlookers to rethink everything they believed they understood. Now, the moment arrives. This is your proof, your testimony, your undeniable reminder that no external force has the power to dismantle what was built with divine precision. Let the weight of your reality be the reckoning that solidifies exactly who you are.